Hi, I'm Tom, and today we'll be talking about horribly fantastic films. These aren't schlocky films that are bad and you feel like sending a death threat afterwards, but are actually good. Maybe. Kind of. Which can be shocking. Or usually, they're so bad that all you can do is laugh. So today we'll be talking about Madman, a great, well, I can't say great. Ooh, we'll be talking about a horror movie. Yep, that's probably the best description. But I watched this movie this past October, and I think maybe you should give it a viewing, maybe even a purchase, if you have disposable income and you really want to watch a movie once and agonize over how you can get your $5 or $8 back. Now, let's cover I, Madman while telling you about the plot as written by Wikipedia. Virginia Clayton, an aspiring actress, works at a used bookstore in downtown Los Angeles where she becomes engrossed with the pulp horror novels of the late Arthur Malcolm Brand.
It's horrific. It makes Stephen King read like Mother Goose.
Virginia's detective boyfriend, Richard, begins to grow more concerned about her fixation on the books, which she becomes immersed in during her free time, occasionally having daydreams in which the villain, a deformed serial killer named Dr. Kessler, appears to her. Richard sleeps over at Virginia's apartment one night. After he comes over, she decides to stay up late reading a passage from Brand's novel, I, Madman, in which Kessler, having gone mad, carves off his own facial features and brutally murders his victims and grafts parts of their faces onto his own. Kessler, in particular, becomes obsessed with the beautiful actress Anna Templar. In one graphic passage, Kessler stalks and attacks a woman, incapacitating her in her apartment with a sedative before scalping her with a straight razor. Alright, well, quick pause. I had to read the full passage because I wanted to know if Wiki was going to mention it. But either way, I have to object here with Wikipedia, mainly on the grounds that it's missing some, well, what I believe to be important material. Like Virginia visiting the bookstore earlier and seeing a strange man before telling her friend about how much she wants to read Brand's novel. Later, the book she's looking for actually appears on her doorstep, and Wiki doesn't even mention it. And the movie, I don't even think it tells us where the book comes from. So I kind of feel like that's something that should be mentioned, as Virginia's first sighting of Kessler happens at the bookstore. But outside of that, this whole scene where the lady is being hunted is one where you think if you just had a few more brain cells, you would have took the key out of the door before, running in desperately. Also a big issue, which happens in every horror movie, and I love them, but all the time, all the doors and the walls just seem to be super soundproof. Like nobody heard her scream or slam and knock everything down in the bathroom and in her house. And it's just like, if they just done it in an alleyway, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Well, I would probably have a problem with it because, it's an alleyway and everybody could hear the screaming even better. But anyways, back to the plot. My bad. While working in the bookstore, Virginia comes across a set of books from Brand's personal estate that has been sold to the store. All right, this is another kind of misplaced, misworded scene. Really should have once this over. She actually found Brand's books before reading the passage from I, Madman. That's what kind of leads her to seeing the stranger. Then the book winds up on her doorstep, and like I already mentioned, the yada yada. But she actually goes back to Brand's luggage case, discovering that, I guess you could say, discovers that it's Brand's luggage. But inside it's filled with medical books, prompting her intrigue and, paranoia. But outside, she sees a newspaper detailing the brutal murder of her acting classmate, Colette Berkowitz, which resembles the scalping murder Virginia read about in the novel. From her apartment window, Virginia witnesses Kessler murder. Whoa. We're just going to skip past the rest of that scene, Wiki? Okay, another quick insert, because it's not mentioned. She's waiting for the bus. A strange man pushes her to get her attention before asking if she likes his hair.
Like the color.
Disappearing when Virginia gets distracted by the bus driver. This is the first time Virginia sees Kessler and starts her paranoia, or at least helps her believe that she's becoming delusional. And this is also before, she discovers the newspaper and goes to the bookstore and finds the rest of Kessler's luggage and estate papers and all that kind of stuff. So she doesn't know anything about Kessler, and she just thinks it's like a weirdo who's trying to get her attention at the bus stop who magically disappears. So this is all part of the whole entire issue, becoming delusional and paranoid and all this kind of stuff. It's just a figment of her imagination from being such an avid reader. But this is later then reinforced when she sees Kessler leaving her apartment after daydreaming while reading Madman. You just can't jump into her seeing someone die. I don't know who wrote this wiki page, but you just can't ignore all these other things. These things play into all the scenes. From her apartment window, Virginia witnesses Kessler murder a man in the building across the street and cuts off his ears. See? Played into it. Anyways, Richard, her boyfriend, is appointed to investigate the murder, which has left Virginia traumatized. Virginia insists Kessler has manifested in reality and envisions her as a real-life analog of Anna Templar, wanting to carve out her heart as his ultimate victim. Well, once again, Wiki, he first wants to make her fall in love with him. Then, if she rejects him, because he's hideous, even Frankenstein had better plastic surgery, kills her. Anyways, Virginia claims leads investigators to believe she is mentally ill because she comes across as a lunatic.
It all started with the book.
A book?
Richard knows about it. It's this weird book that I picked up where I work. Somehow this character got out.
He got out?
He got out of the book.
Virginia, though, examines the book and notices on the title page that it has been classified as nonfiction. She visits Brand's publishing office and questions Sidney Zett, the head publisher, about the book's history. Sidney recounts how Brand requested his works be classified as nonfiction and believed his characters have come to life and tormented him. Sidney assumes Brand was schizophrenic and revealed he was found mutilated in his home. This leads Virginia to believe that he is in fact Brand's ghost who is tormenting her rather than Kessler's character. And neither one of those makes any sense, by the way. I mean, if Kessler was a vengeful spirit that would be released anytime someone read the book, then thank you, Mr. Brand, for selling the world a demon-possessed book. But if it's a ghost, then, who delivered the book? How is he trapped inside the book? Has he been in the book all along? I don't know. The movie doesn't tell us that. But this Wikipedia page makes it sound like it was just a simple discovery. One night on an unpopulated block of Hollywood Boulevard, Virginia witnesses another of her classmates, Lenny, brutally murdered by Kessler. In an attempt to capture the killer, Richard unsuccessfully has Virginia attempt to lure him inside the local library, because once again, inserting into the vague plot on Wikipedia, she has a passage from her book that tells her who Kessler's next victim should or could be. And since Kessler is attacking people in Virginia's life, she apparently, being a big library lover, even though I don't think she visits it once in the movie, but she concludes that Kessler would be targeting the woman at the library next based on the passage. And well, lo and behold, he doesn't. And while watching this movie, you already know who Kessler's next target is, but this leads the police ending their investigation into the insanities of Virginia, which ultimately delays her boyfriend in the finale of the film, which I will elaborate a little later on, especially if Wikipedia forgets to add that as well. Back at her apartment, Virginia rereads the passage from the novel. This leads her to fear for the safety of Mona, her co-worker working the night shift at the bookstore, who just earlier in the movie was wistfully talking about how she would really like a date. Virginia.
Not, but the way I figure it, I'm more likely to run into a gorgeous guy in a bookstore than a smart guy in a singles bar.
Anyways, Virginia rushes to the store to save Mona, but finds her dead with her lips cut off. Kessler appears and pursues Virginia, who finds she has been locked in by the store's security gate. Virginia is saved by Richard, by apparently skipping over 5 to 10 minutes worth of hide and seek Wikipedia. And are we just going to glaze over Virginia, Kessler, and Richard falling up a flight of books? Or how the final scene takes place in the attic of the bookstore? Like, come on. And if we leave Wikipedia for a second, who stacks that many books on stairs? Also, did Richard shoot the lock or did he smash the glass? You know what? Let's just finish this. Richard shoots Kessler moments before he is about to slash Virginia with a razor, but the gunshot only momentarily stops him because, that's how guns work on Immortal Monsters, which at this point in the movie, you really don't know if Kessler is Brand or Kessler is a monster created by the book or nothing really. He is ultimately killed by the demon from the novel who appears and hurls him out the window. Wait, what? Oh my god, Wikipedia? Where'd the demon come from? Anyways, I guess I'll just tell you since Wikipedia decided to opt that out. He, because I think it's a boy, appears in the beginning of the movie when Virginia is vividly reading a passage from the first Malcolm Brand book. And assuming that whatever she reads from the books becomes real, she reads the jackal-human hybrid creature into existence because there was another copy of it at the bookstore who happens to have a deep hatred for Kessler or Malcolm Brand, which just makes me wonder why didn't the creature appear earlier in the movie? Outside of this one scene, at the very beginning, why does the creature come into existence now? It doesn't work until Brand is released. I thought Brand was locked up in a loony bin or dead or whatever. You know what? It's just... Sorry. I'm hurting my head now. Did you know that Roger Ebert gave this movie a 3 out of 4 stars? Crazy. But anyways, this story doesn't make a lick of sense. It's like Frankenstein meets Freddy Krueger, but the only difference is by the end of the movie, I know what Freddy Krueger is. Kind of. This I just don't know. Are the books haunted? Is it Brand's ghost? Did Brand give it life somehow by writing it? Like that Brendan Fraser movie? Or did he write all the horrible things he was doing into his books like a journal, thus somehow sealing the souls of not just himself, but the monster that he created too? My theory was that he gave birth to the monsters in his books by simply writing about them, and that Kessler maimed Brand, taking his lips, ears, hair, etc., because there was no one else to maim in order to beautify himself. And the moment that Kessler finished the book, the demons went away, and he was eventually locked away in a loony bin, and his publisher, Sidney, wanting to make a little profit off the disfigurement of one of his authors, published his books. But even then, that doesn't make a ton of sense. Did Brand or Sidney know when he finished the books, in order for them to be published, that the demons would come out of the book and attack people? Or is it that only special few people have the ability to read these demons out of the book, like Virginia? Or is it a special parchment, which is only available in some of the books? But, this could have easily been solved by having Virginia read one of Brand's manuscripts, and that's the only way that these creatures can be created is from the original manuscripts. Also, if not any of that, is Sidney actually the villain of the story? Maybe I'm just thinking too much into this. If you ever watch a movie and you have to think about the plot more than the writer apparently did, it's not a good movie. And this one, with poor writing and acting, yeah, those are just the two big bad ones, yeah. But this movie isn't bad when you think about how the acting isn't spectacular. The story is confusing, the special effects are very limited, and that ending, which I haven't even talked about. Why did they turn into pages? Why? Why pages? They went back into the book? I don't understand. There was no build up to it, no moment where our heroine discovers that he's bound to the book, and they didn't even destroy all the books, meaning that they can be summoned again by some other hapless schmo. So confusing. But if you decide that you want to watch this, you should be entertained when watching. As much as I may be beating it while it's down, the movie did pull off a pretty good horror movie for its limited blood and death view. I mean, almost all the victims are actually not shown with wounds. They're covered with tarps, and only Mona's wounds and the guy with the missing ears, I believe, are the only victim wounds that you see over the course of the show. But Brand's cosmetics and the scarring all over his face, that showed true expertise at someone who ever did that. But they wanted to show you a horror movie that wasn't just, mindless blood, guts, and dismemberments, which probably would have helped this movie. And as bad as the acting was, they thought they made a great movie, and I commend them for believing that. But, that's the movie. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I may hate the movie now because of Wikipedia, but, I don't have nothing else to say. Anyways, have a good one. Or not.